Hello everybody, my name is Soulless Convoy, and today I'm taking a look at ThreeZero's MDLX Toxitron. Just a quick look at the box. Very, very pretty box. I really like this design on the front. Captures the essence of Toxitron as this poisonous ooze monster version of Optimus Prime. Has some really nice art on the sides as well, and a translucent gap for you to look at the figure. Very pretty, well done. Really drives home this exclusive. It's exclusive to Toy Dojo and ages 3 and up, I believe. I will put a link in the description to Toy Dojo's website. And just starting off with the figure itself, just like the box it comes in, this is a gorgeous figure. Really like eye drawing and eye capturing in terms of like just visual eye candy. You know, it's one of those toys where just looking at it makes you happy. And it really drives home like the yep, this is worth the money I spent for it type feeling just by looking at it. And that's always a nice feeling to have. Getting in on the head sculpt, which I believe is not necessarily new, but definitely not the original ThreeZero MDLX Optimus head sculpt. I believe it was just used for their Skybound Optimus. That was the first instance of it being used, and this is probably the second. Really nice green paint, which is on the rest of the figure as well. Silver paint, and there's some like dry brushing on the faceplate. Really nice greebling here that I really like on the cheek guard. The shaping of the cheek guard is just really nice, and it's a very pretty head sculpt. Definitely one of the prettier ones I've seen out of the MDLX line, and a huge improvement over the original head sculpt that they had going for this figure. Torso also looks great. Big shout out to that tampographed shattered window. I don't know if that's copied from their Shattered Glass Optimus, but I think it looks pretty good. Do wish the windshield wipers were painted. That is a little miss on an otherwise fantastically painted figure. I don't know if you guys can see like even the work of the wash on the green, but it's just so nice, and it continues throughout the entire figure, and it's very consistent, and it's very pretty. I mean, even like these ooze tampographs, even if you might find them corny or cartoonish, they really elevate this design, I think, especially for a Toxitron figure. And even on the back, like the paintwork continues. Very nice, very consistent, very pretty. I'm going to get into articulation and point out more cool paint stuff as I go. I'll start off with the head. Now, while this is a very dynamic figure in terms of silhouette and proportions, the articulation sometimes, I wouldn't say it leaves a bit to be desired, but the ranges are not prioritized over the aesthetic. I'll explain what I mean more in a second. The head does get a nice bit down. It does get a good amount of side to side. It does go 90 in both directions, looking left and right, and it only gets like maybe like 10 degrees up. This is despite the fact that there's a ball joint at the base of the neck. There's a ball joint inside the neck that goes into the head. And the reason for that is they really chose to like have this like seamless, uncompromised sculpt where you can't see any of the ball joints from any angle. And they preferred that over the ranges, which I get, but I do wish it could look up more. I really do wish he could look up more. And I wish he could probably look side to side more, or like look up while you look side to side. It's a little bit annoying. I'm going to zoom out a bit, and we are going to talk about his shoulders. So the shoulders are pretty complex, but first off, inside the torso, we have this very tight internal butterfly that kind of comes out like that. And allows for a long reach across the body. Very nice and very tight, so you won't use it on accident. You have to be very intentional. The arms can rotate 360 on a ball joint. That ball joint also gives butterfly motion, which is great. The shoulder pads can hinge up, and when combined with a hinge inside the arms and the ball joint they're on already, using all three joints in tandem, you can go up to 120 degrees. There is a ball joint right here that's on a double ball joint. It's a barbell right here and right here. It's die cast. I believe the material they use around it is like designed to not wear out with die cast, so that's nice. There's a hinge here as well. So there's three joints working in tandem. The downside is that like you have to like set his arm back into position once you've posed it, because you have to like readjust all three joints, not one joint to be adjusted at once. So just keep that in mind. A little bit more complex than usual for, I guess, shoulder, but it does give you a lot of posing options. There's a double jointed elbow that gets you almost the full run, pretty adequate. I do wish this little thing, the panel, was spring loaded, so it'd spring like close when you extend the arm, but it's fine, especially at this smaller size. I forgot to mention that he has a unhindered bicep swivel, and then the wrists can swivel and rock like 5 degrees in each direction. They're also on a double barbell ball joint, though in this instance I really don't like the execution. I'll talk about it later in accessories. Switching his arms out to the side, let's talk about the abdomen. I'm already using it, but let me get it into like a static position so I can show you his ab crunch. Gets you about 40 degrees, I would say, maybe 45, probably 40. Does expose some detail, which is really nice and painted really well. The greebling on this figure is just the right amount, in my opinion. It's a really nice design that really elevates the character, I think. The torso kind of sucks, though. I mean, the hips kind of suck, in my opinion. The waist is an unhindered 360-degree rotation, but is also on a ball joint, so it can tilt side to side. I believe there's also some rotating and tilting action in the ab crunch region, but it's very minimal, or I'm not activating it properly. Hips, though. These hip skirts in front move up. Don't like these hip skirts. I'll talk about them more later. The hip skirts on the side also move up, but they're connected on a ball joint to the hip skirts on the back, which are connected on a ball joint right here. Annoying. In the static position, like the default position, the hips are decently posable, but they only get you up maybe like 80 degrees, 70 degrees, and they only get you out to the side like 60 degrees. They're on a ball joint, but there's also another ball joint right there, which we aren't using right now. It's much tighter, and you're gonna have to like access that ball joint, so get a good grip because it's very tight, like it's supposed to be, like a drop down should be, and that'll allow you to drop down the hip. So you can see now between the two legs that the hip here is right here, and the hip here is all the way up there, and now you're articulating from here, which allows you to both get like, oop, it went back up. And this allows you to get like 90 degrees out to the side, which is awesome. And it allows you to get over 90 degrees, or yeah, a little bit right over 90 degrees up. Oop. Little accident right there, a little boo-boo. You can pretend he kicked the camera down with his fantastic posability. And when combined with the ab crunch, I mean, well, now we're cooking, I think. We got a little bit going on. We're cooking. I didn't take any pics this cool, actually. I'm kind of kicking myself right now. Big theme for this video is getting kicked, I guess. Also, just while I have you here, the double jointed knee does activate a linkage assembly in the back of his calf. So that's nice. That's pretty nice. And it does also have like a concealed knee joint, so you don't see like the ugly guts within when you use it. Bringing it down, you do have a thigh swivel, which can be hindered when it's not dropped down, but is usually fine once you move it out of the way. Pushing that back up to match the other thigh. And I don't know. I think the double joint is non-conventional for a drop down, but I think it works pretty well. The ankles, you're going to have these panels you can flip up. You don't really need to because they just move out of the way once you move the foot. The foot is also on double barbells. There's one up here. Or let me actually pull it to the side. There's a ball joint that goes, it's focusing on his other foot. That's funny. There's a ball joint right there, and there's one at the base of the foot. And with those two in tandem, you can like do a lot of things. You can shift the foot back. You can shift the foot forward and down. You have a toe tilt. But most importantly, they allow you to shift the foot to the side and then to another side. And you can get like a pretty respectable, but also lacking, like, I don't know, 35-degree ankle tilt. Definitely wish you could get more ankle tilt. That's my big complaint with his feet. But for the most part, he grounds pretty well, and it's not the end of the world, I guess. And you literally can just leave those down. They just move by themselves. So he's not the most posable figure in the world, but I do think he poses decently well enough. And the silhouette itself is kind of dynamic, that even like a more static pose, if you just find some nuance in the sculpt with the joints that are there, because there are a lot of them, and it can really let you nuance like the head and, you know, very slight butterfly motion and very slight bends and curves. He's very dynamic just in static poses, and that's kind of, I think, the goal for displaying this toy, is what ThreeZero intended. It's a weird sentence. Play with your toys however you want. Sorry, that was a weird sentence. I will say it doesn't pose poorly, but I think maybe I've handled ThreeZero figures that are a little bit more limber. But I've never handled an MDLX before, technically, so that could be part of it. Accessories, we have a lot of accessories. I don't really like some of them. Starting off, we have a ton of alternate hands. I'm going to handle the ones I like least first. I don't like these open hands. They have this very strange sculpt that I've never seen a ThreeZero figure do before, where they're like pointing down, and like it's very strange. It doesn't look properly dynamic. It looks like a very particular. It looks like a JoJo pose hands. I don't know. They're very strange. They're not the usual open grasping hands you see on giant robot toys. Don't like those. Haven't used them. Kind of a waste. The other hands he has, there's a lot of pairs. I'm actually not going to count them because there's so many. But he has a pair of 2-finger command pointing hands, which I do like. These are nice. That Dark of the Moon pose where Optimus uses 2 fingers to point is pretty cool. And then the rest of his hands are all holding hands. You have a pair of hands to hold his axe. I'm just going to show that right here. Right? And then you have a pair of hands with a trigger finger to hold his gun. I have those on already because I'm a smart, intelligent boy. If you want to see them off, right? Here, I can't find my other trigger finger hand. Okay. So here is the axe holding hand for the right and the trigger holding hand for the right. And then finally, he has a pair of matrix opening hands, which can clip into or just like hold the matrix, which is included in his torso. You have to remove his entire chest plate and the matrix of corruption. That's what I'm calling it. I don't know if Toxitron's matrix has ever shown up in fiction and got it a name, but I'm calling it the matrix of corruption. You have to remove the entire chest plate, which is held on by magnets and pegs, which is a really secure fit. But I think you could have really fit in hinges. I don't think you needed to do this. Magnets are cool, though. I will say if it had hinges and it closed with magnets, that would be like the coolest thing ever. I don't really know why we had to go with like the remove the entire chest to access the tiny matrix corruption, which does look pretty cool, and it does have light piping, so you know, pretty cool matrix of corruption. I am coining that, by the way. I'm a big Toxitron head. That's the reason I bought this for myself. Actually, this is not a loaner, first one in a while. The Toxitron is definitely my favorite Glorpo character for sure. So I'm taking credit for Matrix of Corruption, actually. Call my lures. No, I'm just kidding. For the hands, this is the part of the figure I really don't like. My least favorite part about the figure is how the hands work. There's a double barbell ball joint. It's very small. It's not fragile or anything at all. It's just there's a ball joint in here and a ball joint there. On the left hand, it's not so bad. I haven't had that many issues with the left hand, and you just kind of have to like push it on. The problem is like when you try to push it on, I'm going to struggle on camera because, you know, I struggle doing it off camera too, is when you try to push it on, the other ball joint just moves. So I did it second try, which is really good. The left hand, again, is a lot easier because thankfully the one at the base is tighter. But the problem is on the right hand, the one at the base is much looser than the actual popping the wrist on thing. So it's a huge pain. It takes me like 6 tries to get a hand on the right hand. It's not ideal. But I do think he looks pretty good with his ion rifle. It is incredibly long, but, you know, it's pretty cool. I like the sculpt work. And it has a nice wash all over it. I do wish it had some like painted details maybe. Like it has just different variations of silver and gray, but I guess that's fine. It contrasts with the figure nicely. Just pop that right off. And now I'm going to pop on the axe hand, which will hopefully not cause any issues either. Can I get a first try? No. No way. No way in Primus's good name am I getting that on my first try. Not even on my second try. See, so you can see that the ball joint moves before it like relinquishes popping into the ball socket on the wrists. We might have to call it a day because I don't want to try more than 3 to 4 times on camera. There we go. Third time's a charm. You can hold the axe just fine. I will say it's not like the most secure hold. It's not a great hold at all. Like it won't fall out because obviously it's not designed to fall out, but the natural holding position is like a downwards tilt. And to be fair, if you've ever seen me talk about melee weapons, I prefer them to be tilted downwards because, you know, that's kind of how they're held a lot of the time. Just holding it straight up doesn't really make a lot of sense. But the fact that you can't really do that unless you like blow dry the hands back into a tighter finger position. Tighter finger position. That is a phrase. It's just not ideal. I don't understand. I don't know. The hands on this guy are not ideal, I will say. I think the axe looks cool. I do wish it had some paint, though. You know, just wish it had some paint. So I'm going to pop this off, and I'm going to pop the fist back on. And hopefully I can get that first try. I hope you guys believe in me, and if we all work together, you lend me my power, we can get it on the first try. There we go. There we go. I appreciate you guys for the support. That's pretty much it for the accessories. I don't want to call it a wash. I think the axe looks pretty cool, and the gun looks pretty cool. But there's just a lot of mist there, and honestly, like, it's probably the weakest part of the figure. For some size comparisons, let's move him back over there. I'm going to bust out MMC's Tyrantron. Kind of towers over him, but you can get an idea of how big it is if you collect MMC figures. And my trustworthy, my lighting move, Deluxe G2 Trooper. So you can see that he's not a deluxe for sure, but he's definitely like moderate Voyager size. Deluxe Bone Shaker. I guess tall Voyager maybe. I don't really collect enough modern Chug to have the sizes memorized in my head. And I guess move the deluxes over because I have a similar, but not really similar at all, high-end robot toy just for the sake of it. Here is Mazinger's Soul of Chogokin Mazinger Z. If anyone wanted that comparison. But, you know, I just figured I'd toss that in because I like that figure. Moving on to final thoughts, I've kind of gone over most of everything I have to say with this figure, but I really like it as a whole. Most of my issues with it are just negatives or periphery stuff like the alternate hands and the accessories, and frankly, I like the figure enough as just itself that the open hands looking weird and the hands being annoying to swap on and off is not bothering me that much. Or like the Matrix chamber not having opening doors. Like, these are all just nitpicks. Proportions are there. The sculpt is fantastic. The paint is otherworldly good for the price point, I think, actually. Like, it's expensive, don't get me wrong, but like there are plenty of expensive figures that aren't painted this well or are this striking in hand to handle. It also handles like a dream. The joints are toleranced almost perfectly. Like, literally everything outside those annoying hand swaps feels fantastic. Like, everything is toleranced the way it should be. The butterflies, the thick butterflies inside the torso are much tighter than the shoulder, like they should be. The drop downs are much tighter than the actual hips, like they should be. The knees are tighter than the ankles. Like, all the joints are toleranced in the right order. And I rarely see figures do that, and no one really talks about it. Like, you don't want a wrist to be way tighter than an elbow, right? Because if you try to rotate the wrist, and the elbow moves. Or you don't want an elbow, likewise, to be much tighter than a shoulder. Like, there's a descending level of tolerance that these joints should get tighter and tighter the more integral they get to the figure's posing. And this figure nails that, right? The tightest thing on the figure is the drop-down hips and the central torso butterflies. Just handles perfectly. Materials feel great. Paint is great. And I'm not even going to complain that much about the accessories. You know, I mean, there's a ton of hands and a ton of options. It's just a shame that, like, I would have liked a regular grasping hand. I don't know why that's not a possibility here. Not this, like, weird splayed hand that looks really strange. Regarding price, though, it is expensive. $110 is the MSRP, I believe. That's how much I paid on Toy Dojo, who is, I believe, carrying this in the United States. I think if you're in Canada, you can get it off ages 3 and up, and I'm not sure where international buyers will have to pick this one up. Maybe ThreeZero's own store, since I think they carry their own exclusives for global markets. I'll link Toy Dojo in the description for our American buyers and viewers. I think most of you are from there. I also have viewers in Japan, I think. But yeah, I mean, Toy Dojo's always been good to me. You know, I spoke to them at the TFCon LA, where this was supposed to be an exclusive. It got delayed due to like a customs hang-up, which, you know, was kind of disappointing because I would have loved to get this at the convention, but it's cool. I have it now. Patience is a virtue. And that's it for me, guys, pretty much. You know, I've been taking a look at non-transforming figures on this channel before, but, you know, this is the first. Will I look at more? Who knows? I'm not consistent. I've never been that consistent, but you guys still tune in, and I really appreciate it. I always appreciate it. I'll put a link to this and Toy Dojo store in the description. I can always recommend Toy Dojo. They've always been good to me. And that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys next time. Souls Convoy. Peace.